This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show, our Friday edition. We have Byron Williams joining us here early this morning to start. So, how you doing this morning, Byron?
Oh, I'm doing good. How you guys doing? Yeah, I hear you.
We hear you.
I'm doing good. Jack looks like he's doing well, and we're glad to have you in here early. Let's start it off with, of course, one of the best, meanest, toughest middle linebackers of all time. Dick Butkus passes away at 80 years old. After he got done, he had to kind of retire early after 9 years because of his knees. He did end up playing in some movies and becoming a commentator. And Byron, can you think of any middle linebacker that hit and played as hard as Dick Butkus?
There's none ever played the game the way he played. He just, the way he attacked the game. He grew up on the south side of Chicago, and he was just a marquee player for Chicago, and he really set the pace for the Bears. I mean, just him and Gail Sayles, and it's just so many great things you can say about him and what he meant to the city, what he meant to the community, and what he meant to the NFL. So, he's gonna be heavily missed. I mean, we lost a great player.
Yeah, in this day and age, the players were described as being game wreckers. You could talk about T.J. Watt, Aaron Donald, Micah Parsons. Dick Butkus was the first game wrecker in the history of the NFL. There were other great players, but I'm talking about a game wrecker, okay, who would single-handedly at times take over and disrupt another team's offense, completely. And he was as tough as they came. He struck fear into the opposition. I mean, we had other great players, in and around this time, like Chuck Bednarik and so on. But it was Dick Butkus, when the way he would charge in and wreak havoc on the offense. I mean, he was truly feared, and a great player.
Right. Yeah. And even all the guys who's talking about him right now, like Charlie Taylor, the Hall of Famers, all the Hall of Famers that said remarks about him just speak volume. And when he hit you, you've been hit. And what I like about him, he didn't play dirty. He just played physical football.
Right. I agree. Two-time defensive player of the year, missed rookie of the year. He was in second behind Gale Sayers. I think they only had one winning season. You imagine him on a Green Bay Packers or a big-time team at that time. He might have got lucky and maybe went to the Super Bowl or something, but he loved Chicago and had that 9-year career there with him. So,
as great as all the players, Mac, as great as all the players were on the Packer defensive unit, there was none better than Dick Butkus. I mean, he would have been the lead of that defense, as legendary as the Packer defense was. But I kind of wonder how Dick Butkus would have adjusted to today's game, because he loved to drive running backs, quarterbacks into the ground. And he wouldn't be allowed to do that today. He'd have to ease up. You kind of wonder whether it would have affected his game. Would he have been as great? Because Dick Butkus was an all-out. I mean, he wouldn't stop. And the idea that he'd have to stop and let up, he would actually lose effectiveness if he were playing today.
Either that or be fined a lot, that's for sure. So, all right, Dick. There's Dick Butkus with the Chicago Bears. And speaking of Chicago Bears, and, I picked them to win the division, believe it or not, in the beginning of the season. I think the Chicago Bears have a very talented team. Showed a little bit last week against Denver. Denver came back to beat them. But they get it together for the Washington Commanders, and really 40-20. The score is closer than what the game was because the Bears dominated the Commanders in every way. We had Justin Fields going 15 for 29 for 282 yards and 4 touchdowns. DJ Moore had a huge game. Getting rid of that first draft pick and picking up DJ Moore paid dividends yesterday. So I don't know. I don't know if this means the Bears are back or not, but it sure looks like they're on the right track right now. I mean, if their defense can play like they played against the Commanders, and listen, the Commanders' offense isn't a great offense. I think we can all agree to that.
Right.
I thought, and tell me if I'm wrong, Byron, because you played the game. The Washington Commanders almost beat the Eagles. I think they shot their shot. I think that was it. I mean, they got all pumped up for the Eagles, and they come back and they're going to play the Bears, and the Bears are 0, they're 0-4.
Right.
It should be. I think players, they say players go one game at a time. I don't believe that because I played football before, and you look at a certain team coming up and saying, we should be able to beat them. We don't have to get us pumped and get us prepared. And I think that's what happened to the Commanders last night, Byron.
Absolutely. That's what happened to them. And plus, they were playing at home. They just had so much confidence that they're just going to walk all over Chicago. And then another thing, like we just got to talk about with Dick Butker pass, it was a lot of other things that went into this game, I think, that really caused them to be focused. And they really played a good game, had a great game plan. And it was just amazing that they put all the timing and everything was perfect for Chicago Bears last night. In the first half, they had over 300 yards. And so that right there just said they really won the game in the first half. And their defense had 2 sacks all year long. They had 5 sacks last night. The defense stepped up. Seemed like they were just on all cylinders last night.
Now, Jack,
and to answer your question, the Bears are not a very good team, Mac. In the beginning of the year, when you picked them to win their division, I said they're not going to win more than 6 games this year. They're not a very good team. They win one game against the Florida Commanders.
You're telling me this is the Bears are not a very good team. You're saying, but yet they destroyed the Commanders last night. I mean, they didn't just.
They're 1-4, Mac. They're 1-4.
Jack, there's a lot of teams that start off bad and end up kicking it in the middle, beginning of the year. I know a few teams off the top of my head. The New England Patriots have done it. The Giants have done it. I mean, there's a lot of teams. The Steelers have done it. So just to say that they're not a very good team to me is totally, totally wrong. I think.
Well, every year, I'm going to say this, every year, it's going to be some teams that start off real bad, that finish up real strong and might make the wild card and playoffs. So Chicago might be in that one of those teams, but 1-4 is really hard to get over, though.
Yeah, listen, I don't think they're going to be a wild card team. I really don't. But I think they'll get close to 500. I think they can finish 7-9 or 7-10. That's not too much to ask. I mean, honest to God, I think they're more talented than the Green Bay Packers. How's that? More talented.
Well, the Green Bay Packers in kind of a transitional stage. Packers are better coached than the Bears. The Bears have all this turmoil going, miscommunication, the GM, the coach, the quarterback, the offensive line, which played a bit better last night than they have early in the year with the Bears. That's been a big problem with Justin Fields. And, he finally got the ball out to DJ Moore. Okay, so it was kind of like a big celebration. But I think as good as the Bears were, the Commanders were just as bad yesterday. They were flat for a while. I mean, their defense, it didn't show up. You mentioned the Eagle game. It's possible, and it does happen, teams have a letdown. You play the Eagles the week before. You're so psyched for that game. And then the game's over. It's hard to motivate yourself, to play the next week against a lowly team like the Bears compared to the Eagles. And it showed up with Washington.
Yeah, a lot of time, I want to say it's a lot of distraction when you play at home, and then you playing a team hadn't won a game in all year long, and next thing you know, they up 20-0 on you or whatever, and that really just goes to show you that these guys are professionals, and you got to really stay focused, and you got to stay locked in, and just because you're playing at home and think you're gonna have an advantage, that it just don't happen in the National Football League.
I agree with that. Let's talk about the Major League Baseball playoffs. We'll get back into football. I want to get these in. Listen, sweeps all across the board. The Phillies end up. Let's see. They end up winning 2 games in a row. Before we get there, I want to stop for a second. I want to again bring attention. Tim Wakefield former White Sox, Red Sox knuckleballer.
Red Sox, yeah.
Wakefield was part of a lot of World Series teams with the Red Sox going back. I mean, you can go back to the 70s with Tim Wakefield. He chewed up innings. I'll tell you, when he pitched with the White Sox, he was out of sight. He was a 21 game winner. Went to the Red Sox, played in World Series teams. Real good guy. Tim Wakefield was, and a very good one of the last true knuckleball pitchers. And Jack's checking me out to make sure. I think I'm right with the White Sox. I think that's where he started.
Yeah, you better check that. You better check that out, Mac. I don't remember winning 21 games.
I think he was, but I don't know. I don't know if you remember Tim Wakefield. Byron, I don't remember you. Let me finish, Jack. Byron, I don't know if you remember Tim Wakefield. I know you do, Jack. So go ahead and give us some info on that.
I mean, he's the second winningest pitcher in Red Sox history. Pitched like 17 years for the Red Sox. I think he had a 19-year major league career. I mean, so I wouldn't identify him as a pitcher for any other team but the Red Sox in reality, because that's who he pitched for his whole career. I mean, I can identify Tom Seaver as being a White Sox. He was at one point in his career, but I really wouldn't do that. Okay. Tim Wakefield, at least to a lot of people, unfortunately, is known for giving up the home run to Aaron Boone that clinched the World Series for the New York Yankees, the extra winning walk-off home run. And Tim Wakefield thought he'd always be known for that. And I'm mentioning that. This part of his legacy. Just like when a player does something great, spectacular, it becomes part of their legacy. But when you think of Tim Wakefield, we think of a really reliable pitcher on that staff. I mean, he wasn't one of the aces, but you could always count on him like as being part of the rotation, like you said, Mac, to give you innings. And when you think of the knuckleball, the great knuckleball pitchers in Major League history, you think of Tim Wakefield, who mastered the knuckleball. He didn't throw too hard, won a lot of games for the Red Sox. Like I said, I think he won like 187 or so, something like 5 behind Roger Clemens, but he all-time most as a Red Sox pitcher. And loved by his teammates, loved by the community there, real popular. And, he's going to be missed by everyone who knew him.
Yeah, Tim Wakefield pitched for not the White Sox, but the Twins before going over the Red Sox. He had an 8-1 record in 13 games with a 2.15 ERA. He won National League Rookie Pitcher of the Year. And he also, Wakefield, would pitch up to 146 pitches because he wouldn't wear out his arm. But anyway, he did have a good quick 2-year stint over there with the Twins. So he did pitch for somebody else. Good morning, Rick. Glad to have you on. Byron, do you remember Tim Wakefield? You have to remember Tim Wakefield.
Yeah, I remember Tim because of that knuckleball. I mean, that was a special gift, special talent, and you don't see too many guys can be able to throw that knuckleball. So yes, I remember him.
Yes. So anyway, Tim Wakefield passes away. So let's get to the MLB playoffs. Again, Texas won 7-1 over Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is out. Texas is in. They'll be going on to play the Baltimore Orioles. Let's see. Marte drives in 2. Corbin Carroll went 2 for 4. Zach Gallen got the win. The Phillies beat the Marlins 7-1. Same score. Nola with the win. Phillies sweep to play the Braves. Harper had a home run. There was also a grand slam hit by Scott. Arizona Diamondbacks are going on to play the Dodgers, so they also swept. They won 5-2. You also had, let's see, who else we got here? Twins. The Twins went ahead and they swept Carlos Correa 2 for 3. Made a great defensive play. I don't know if you guys saw it, off somebody else's glove. He threw a guy out at home. Great play. So everybody swept. Everybody's going on to move the people with the bye. So, Jack, any surprises? Can Texas upset Baltimore? I shouldn't say can they. Will they upset Baltimore? And will the Phillies upset the Braves?
Well, your preseason pick of the San Diego Padres over the Toronto Blue Jays in the World Series didn't happen, Mac. The Blue Jays went out quick. The Padres didn't make the playoffs, but they closed strongly. They may have been the best team in baseball by the end of the season, ironically. They went 82-80, but they lost so many early games. The team that has to be the most disappointed that got eliminated, Milwaukee Brewers. It's happening every year with them. They won their division again. This was supposed to be their year where they were going to at least try to make a serious run to get into the playoffs, and to lose 2 straight to the Arizona Diamondbacks, a very ordinary team who just snuck in the playoffs. That had to be massively disappointing. Looking ahead at these series, there's a couple of really intriguing series here. In the National League, you'd think the Dodgers should beat out the Arizona Diamondbacks. It's best of 5. Anything could happen. The Dodgers are thin at their starting, rotation, but they're strong in the bullpen. You'd think that they should win that series. The Phillies and the Braves is an intriguing rematch from last year. Phillies are peaking at the right time, but the Braves, my preseason pick to beat the Yankees, in the World Series. I like the Braves over the Phillies, absolutely. And then in the American League, you just look at the games being played there, Minnesota and Houston. I think Minnesota is kind of like in a bit of a high. I could see them upsetting the Astros there. And I like the Orioles over Texas. If you're asking me now how things are going to play out, I'm obviously sticking with the Braves to win the World Series. I like the Baltimore Orioles to get there. They're so well balanced. So if I had to continue on, and slot in someone else in the Yankees' place to get in the World Series, I'm slotting in the Baltimore Orioles at this point. But I'm not going to take credit if they get there. But I'm just saying they just look like the best team, the best balanced team.
Byron, I know who you're rooting for. I know you. I know you're going to go for the Rangers. What do you think the Rangers, or can the Rangers beat the Orioles, Byron?
I think they just have to play a perfect playoff series. They was so surprising this year, and I was so excited because, I live in Arlington, and that's where the stadium is, and it was so exciting to see the fans. And for once, we finally got something to cheer for. And the only thing, they just seem like they can't get over the hump with Houston sometime, and that right there. But they surprised everybody. I think they were the most surprising team in the American League. So I was excited for the Rangers.
All right.
It'd be interesting, Byron, if the Rangers do advance to the next round, if they beat Baltimore, and then if Houston beats Minnesota and Texas is playing Houston. There's been a lot of trash talking going back between the two. The Astros are mocking fun at the Rangers on social media because they edged them out for the division. So it would become a bit personal there.
Yeah.
So, you might get some serious drama there in Texas, the state of Texas, if those two meet. I'm even interested about it here in New York. That looks like it would be, some rivalry.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah, it's right now. There's a lot of trash talking going on. So yeah.
No doubt. So let's jump back into the NFL. Go over the standings. We're at the quarter-way point almost. So in the AFC East right now, Buffalo and Miami are tied at 3-1, and New England and the Jets are tied at 1-3. So I guess you'd have to say right now that the Jets are in second place and the Patriots are in second place if you want to be, if you want to go just by the records.
It's in last place. It's going to be technical, Matt, because New England has the same record and they have the tiebreaker because they beat the Jets. So technically, the Jets are last place in the division.
So we'll say they're in third then. So anyway,
fourth. New England.
Did Buffalo? Well, they're tied. Buffalo and Miami are tied. Jack, stop stealing my thunder.
Buffalo,
all right?
technically in first
place. I got to put up with
Byron.
Every time I do a show, Jack's got to jump in there and steal my thunder. He always tries to take my shade, right? I'm just trying to be nice and tell him the Jets are in second place. No, they're in fourth, Mac. No, Miami lost to Buffalo, so they're really in. I know how it works, Jack. I'm trying to be nice to you for a change. You can't even be nice to him about it. I try. But anyway.
I'm trying to be factual, Mac.
Buffalo. Yeah, I know, Jack. You're the fact checker here besides the safety mind. Anyway, Byron, Miami loses to Buffalo. Everybody, they're Buffalo. Buffalo's the best team in the East. Miami. everybody gets excited by one game.
Yeah,
Everybody, just because Buffalo beat them once doesn't mean Miami ain't going to come back and beat them. That doesn't mean that. That means Buffalo played better for one game. It's like the Jets. Just because the Jets almost beat, who was it? Who they almost beat?
Kansas City.
Yeah, Kansas City. Doesn't mean that they're good as Kansas City, right? They think they are, but they're not.
Yeah.
So anyway, so who is the best team? I'll take you and then Jack. Who's the best team in the AFC East right this time?
You have to say the Buffalo Bills at this moment. When you beat the Miami Dolphins by 28 points, how can I say the Dolphins are better at this moment? But it doesn't come down to this moment. Things change drastically in 1 week. All we have to do is look at the quarterback situation. The media is attacking these quarterbacks based on when Justin Fields plays a really good game yesterday. The media is laying off him this week. They won't have anything bad to say. Zach Wilson was the most maligned quarterback in football. He has a good game against the Chiefs. Everyone is laying off Zach for the week. They're leaving him alone. And who are they going after? They're going after Mac Jones more than anyone. All of a sudden, Mac Jones is terrible. And how did this happen so quickly? And Daniel Jones. They're going after Daniel Jones, too. How could the Giants pay him all that money? How terrible he is. In reality, the jury's still out on Daniel Jones. Let's see what he does going forward. I was a bit skeptical they gave him the money, but I wasn't outraged. I understood. Daniel Jones is capable, if you protect him, of being a decent NFL quarterback. He was one last year. It wasn't a fluke that he was good last year.
Right.
But, him and Matt, the two Joneses, Daniel and Mac, are the most maligned quarterbacks this week. But if they play good games, people will lay off them and they'll point to the next quarterback who played a bad game this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with all that. And it's the Joneses week for sure. They talking about the Joneses in the media.
There you go.
Yeah.
Byron, in the north, you got Baltimore at 3-1, Pitt at 2-2, Cleveland at 2-2, Cincinnati at 1-3. Reporters come out that Deshaun Watson could have played last week, but he wasn't feeling well, and that's why they didn't put him in. Now,
he was warming up before the game, Mac. I can't imagine that being the case, Deshaun Watson saying he didn't want to play. Unless he was really, really sick, I'd be willing to give him the benefit of the doubt,
So, Byron, I asked you, Jack is just jumping you here.
No, that's fine. But they were really, they were watching him and observing him before the game, so he couldn't go. So they decided not to let him play.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. So that was a report, whether it's right or not. I don't know. He wasn't feeling well. I know that's why he didn't play. In the South, everybody's tied at 2-2 at 500. Tennessee, Indianapolis, Houston, the Jags. To me, Houston's the biggest surprise of the year so far, Byron.
Yeah, Houston playing really well. C.J. Stroud is doing well. He's playing better than any rookie quarterback that they have out there this year. But Tennessee Titans seem like they got some momentum going as well.
Okay. In the NFC East, Jack, you got Philly 4-0, Dallas 3-1, Washington 2-2, and the Giants. Well, Washington's 2-3 now. Washington, the Giants at 1-3. Dallas, San Francisco coming up. Again, and I'm going to ask you, Jack. I know what Byron will say. If Dallas beats San Francisco, does that mean Dallas has finally conquered all its demons and will end up playing somebody in the championship for the Super Bowl?
I don't think so unless they do it in the playoffs. Case in point, the two Super Bowl teams that Jim was on, those great Cowboy teams who crushed the Buffalo Bills in the two Super Bowls. In between that, they played Buffalo and Dallas in the regular season, and Buffalo beat Dallas in Dallas. It didn't do anything for their demons. It made them feel good that moment. But it just doesn't do it the regular season game, unfortunately. You have to actually do it in the playoffs. People in Dallas are going to be good. But you know what the 49ers mindset will be? they'll see come playoff time, it's going to be a whole different thing. That's going to be the Niner mindset. They're not going to get rattled by it at all.
Absolutely, and I think you're absolutely right. And playoff is just a different case scenario when you're talking about a game and game preparation. And I just think the Cowboys still have that hanging over their head. But it's going to be hard to beat the 49ers in San Francisco. So Dallas got they got a big task this week. Another thing that's in my mind is they went to Arizona and didn't play well for Flip. So I'm thinking that Dallas, until they can prove that they're a good road team, they got a lot to try to stay focused on.
So Byron, you know what to make this big, guys? I just want to say one thing quickly. Home field advantage. If Dallas beats the Niners and they wind up with the same record and meet in the playoffs, the game would be at Dallas as opposed to San Francisco. And I don't know, would that mean more pressure on the Cowboys being at home or what? Would that actually be an advantage? I'm not certain.
I don't think it really would be an advantage against the 49ers because the 49ers are just a good team overall. They play good at home. They play good on the road. Seems like they're just better equipped, but we'll see. But it's so important to have the home field advantage in the playoff because going into the fourth quarter might be the decision maker of the game. So I'm thinking that Dallas would want to have the home field advantage when they play the San Francisco 49ers this year.
Yeah, I think Dallas and Jerry Jones is making way too big a big deal about this game, saying this is our measuring stick and all. I don't think so. It's only the 5th game in the season. I hope this isn't the time for your measuring stick. I hope it's at the end of the season when you start measuring your team.
Right.
Let's go to the West. It goes 49ers 4-0, Seattle 3-1, the Rams 2-2, Arizona 1-3. I like the way all 4 of these teams are playing. They all play tough. They're all gritty. The Rams are 2-2. I don't think anybody thought that was going to happen. And the Cardinals, they're 1-3, but a couple of those games they could have won. I think this is one of the most physical divisions in the league. What do you think, Byron?
Oh yeah, no doubt. It's probably the most overall surprise because every team is playing better football this year. And that's really good to see. I mean, you ain't gonna, when you play those teams over there, you ain't just gonna walk in and try to automatically get them a game. You got to play good, sound, fundamental football in order to win games in that division.
Yeah, I agree. Jack, the North, you got Detroit at 3-1, Green Bay 2-2, Minnesota 1-3, and Chicago at 1-4. Is it going to be let's put it this way. Is it Detroit there and everybody else? It's just Detroit.
Detroit and everyone else. Yeah, Detroit's arrived. I mean, they're a good team. Even if Detroit underperforms hypothetically, let's say they go 9-8, they underperform. They don't play especially well the rest of the year. They're not going to be worse than 9-8. No one else is going to get up to 9-8 in that division. But chances are that we're looking at Detroit more like an 11-6 team. Packers in transition. The Vikings clearly taken a step back from last year. And Chicago, even if they fulfill your prophecy as far as their potential goes, I mean, how many games is Chicago really going to win? They're 1-4 already. So it's Detroit's division. You don't have a wild card coming out of that division.
I agree with that.
You see, you look at the NFC East, even with the Giants and the Commanders, if a team can get up to 9-8 on the regular season, they can snatch a wild card berth in the NFC. Because that third and final wild card berth, I think 9 wins is going to do it. Even 8 wins conceivably could put you in the mix.
Yeah, possibly. Exactly.
Possibly, especially with New Orleans quarterback being hurt, they're not gonna make a run and be there with Tampa Bay in the end. Last one, Byron. Tampa Bay 3-1, Atlanta 2-2, New Orleans 2-2, Carolina 0-4. Tampa Bay, I think it's going to be Tampa Bay and everyone else in that division too, Byron.
Yeah, and I just think that Tampa Bay have really, played. They got some good, solid veterans as well, and we got to take a hat off to them because they a surprise team of that division for sure. Everybody didn't know they were going to play as good as they planned, so they playing good, sound, fundamental football.
Would it be something if Baker Mayfield is their quarterback the next few years and they don't have to look elsewhere. Number 1 overall choice in the draft, and they got him for basically a cup of coffee.
Yeah, and I'm happy for Baker Mayfield because I think he's matured, he's settled down, and now he knows this is his team. So I think that matters, and I think that he's been playing like a great leader. So that's important.
Well, when you look at it, he lost 2 starting jobs with the Browns, and which he wasn't bad. He was there 4 years, and then he had the Carolina Panthers starting job, didn't hold on to it. Right. But he really revived his career as a backup for Matthew Stafford with the Rams when he played well.
Absolutely.
Let's do some rapid fire questions because we only got an hour, so we can't be spending 5 minutes on Baker Mayfield's history in the NFL.
Keep the answer short, Byron. You got to keep the answer short on this.
All right, Byron, please.
I'm learning, Jack.
Okay, Byron. Evan Smith will be booed for the rest of the year. Yes or no?
Yes.
All right. Okay, and you are correct. Jack, are you worried about the Kansas City Chiefs?
No.
Well, you can expand a little bit. All right, why?
Well, there's no reason to be worried. In the same spot they were last year. They lost Tyreek Hill last year. Patrick Mahomes knows how to mix the ball around, and they'll make any adjustment that needs to be made. Pacheco's running real well for them at running back.
Byron,
they got Taylor Swift. They got Taylor Swift too this year.
They do.
Yeah,
they do. They did draft. They did. I don't know if that was a free agency signing or a draft. Byron, will Denver make a surge?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because I just think Denver just got too many problems. I just think it's something that's hanging over their head. But they hadn't really played that well in the first 4 games. So I don't think they're gonna get it right.
Jack, will the Rams upset the Eagles this week?
No.
Okay,
I know Eagles aren't going to go unbeaten. They have to lose. This is a bit of a trap game for them, but you have to stick with Philadelphia in a game like this. But if they lost to the Rams, I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be like, wow. But I don't think Philadelphia is going to lose.
Okay, we did go over these before when we were talking. I guess we could ask this question. Byron, are the Bucs a legitimate threat in the NFC this year?
I think so. I think they gonna be they'll probably at least win that division. So they're in good shape right now. But
okay.
You always got to look at it as 2 halves in the schedule. It's 2 halves. So right now they got the edge, I do believe.
Okay. All right. The coaches unanimously vote to ban kneeling down during the anthem. What do you think about that, Byron? Do you think that's is that good for the NFL? Is it bad for certain things? What do you think?
Mac, let me just cut in 1 second before he answers. I don't think the coaches vote. The coaches didn't vote to ban kneeling. I never heard of that. Byron, have you heard of that?
I hadn't heard of that either. I just thought that the
NFL they wouldn't do that, Matt.
Step in. I would think the active player or the player committee, NFLPA players committee, should step in on that decision.
I don't think the coaches didn't get together and vote to ban kneeling. It didn't happen.
Well, when you pay your union dues, Wait a minute.
Go ahead, Byron.
No, I was just thinking when you pay your union dues and 90% of the players are paying union dues, I think they need to have a voice in that. So I think the committee need to talk about that. The NFLPA players need to talk about that, and see what's best for the league. I just think it's a traditional thing. I think that they should go ahead and go ahead and stand like they always have.
You want to know something? It's an emotional issue. Something's probably going to happen in society in the future where the players are going to be emotionally involved, and that's when the talk of taking a knee comes up. You want to know something? I'm all for social activism and making improvements, and kudos to the players for that. But at the end of the day, it's your job there. You got to focus on winning games. You have to, otherwise you're going to be out of the league.
Well,
let me ask
the
you
average,
something, okay?
the average, the
Let me
average
ask you
lifetime
something.
is
That's
2.5 for players to play. People don't realize that, and a lot of players don't make 1 year. So it's very important that these players understand that.
Well, let me ask you something. Of course, that was a satire. That's a satire. That's not a true story. That was a satire. I want to get a reaction because I want to get to this point. Some people will disagree and say kneeling before the flag is just as it's just as much honoring the flag as standing. Some people would say that. And at the end of the game or during players' injury, you see people going around and praying, right? And that's also that's also an action that's not really NFL associated, if you will. So I'm going to ask you, Byron, and then you, Jack, why is not kneeling before the flag unacceptable, but praying after a game or maybe before a game, why is it acceptable?
I don't know. Society completely.
Byron first.
No, I'll just say I think it's just been a tradition that standing and sometimes holding your hand over your heart was just a common thing for all of us. We was taught that growing up, and I just think now we have so many changes in the laws and governments and things like that. We got all these. Everybody got this opinions about this, that, and the other. So I think we still need to, go back to the traditional way of what it all meant at the beginning. That's my opinion.
All right, Jack, what do you think?
Society evolves and we kind of learn to accept things. I'm going to tell you a little story. About 15 years before Colin Kaepernick ever took a knee and had no idea who Colin Kaepernick was, it's probably in junior high school, I went to an NBA game with a friend of mine who was younger, who's black, okay? And they're playing the national anthem, and he's sitting in a seat, not standing up. And I elbow him and tell him to get up. You know what I mean? Because you're offending people around you. Close friend. He gets up out of respect to me. I talked to him later. I said, look, if you want to protest, I'll stay with you in the corridor during the national anthem. You don't have to stand for it. And he said it's okay. He just wanted to give his little protest at the time. Sometimes you got to consider, are you offending other people while you're doing it? Do you care about that or not? There's so many implications involved. I do things sometimes I don't want to do because I don't want to offend somebody else. They could have certain feelings, on a certain matter. And, with taking a knee, I think by now we're kind of used to it. But let's say the Super Bowl's going on or something, and they're bringing in all I don't want to use the singers or the performers to give it extra impact, extra meaning, the national anthem. Do you really want to see players take knees during the thing out of protest at that moment? I mean, it would offend people. It depends the setting. In other words, guys, it depends the setting that we're in.
As you said,
another thing, too, I want to say this real quick. I want to say this. Now we're dealing with the fact that people are wearing their hats in the church and they don't want to take their hats off. So, over time, I think there's going to be changes and people have their own beliefs and they grew up certain ways. The reason why I believe the way I believe, but my dad and my oldest brother was in the military. So I just think of their services and what they meant and how we grew up, and I think that's what affected me to believe the way I believe.
Well, let me tell you, Max.
Go ahead.
I just want to mention boxing, for example. They played the national anthem, and the fighter's shadow boxing. He's loosening up, and something about it I don't like. You're throwing punches, you're moving, you're ignoring it. Why even play it if that's going to be the case?
Listen, as you said, there's a lot of different ways to look at that, and I don't think it'll ever go away with people kneeling. They say I'm showing respect to the flag by kneeling like they did in the past, way in the past. I mean, there's so many different things. So we'll push on for that. I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts if that ever happened, not just the coaches, but suppose the NFL banned something like that. That would be interesting. It'd be a heck of a fight. Russ Francis, don't look like he's going to make it in. Russ Francis passes away. He dies, I think it was in a plane crash over Lake Placid, if I'm not mistaken. A great tight end. I mean, for the Patriots and for the 49ers, played well, especially in the Patriots. I remember him as a Patriot anyway. Good blocker, good hands, and sorry to see him get it.
He was before the Bill Belichick era.
Russ Francis. Yes,
played in the Super Bowl that they lost.
The Bears.
Against the Chicago Bears. They got crushed in that game. But really top-of-the-line player, Russ Francis. One of the great names in New England Patriot history that sometimes slips under the radar. When you think of the great New England Patriot players, we usually start looking at the Bill Belichick era. But there were guys that came before him, like Russ Francis, a great running back, Jim Nance, Gino Cappelletti. There were some other great players in Patriot history, and he certainly ranks among the best. There definitely
was, including Rookie of the Year Jim Plunkett, who ended up at the Raiders.
Oh yeah, Jim Plunkett.
Yeah, Jim Plunkett. Yeah.
All right, so
do you think of Jim Plunkett more as being a Raider? Yes. I think of him more as being a Raider guy.
More successful.
Yeah.
So that's and even though he was a second stringer coming off the bench, he still did his thing.
Guys, how would you feel about this? If you're Darrelle Revis, he played 1 year for the Patriots. They won the Super Bowl. But everyone identifies him as a Jet, and the Patriots are the Jets' chief rival. Can you imagine Revis? What could be his attitude? I have a Super Bowl ring. I was with the Patriots. Something isn't right about that.
No, I mean, you want to
Super
Bowl.
They
did. So let's go over I'm sure Byron follows college football too, so we'll go over some college football games, especially the top 10. You got Kansas going up against Georgia. I don't think Kansas is going to beat Georgia. I think that's pretty much. Kansas does have a tough team, but they're playing.
Yeah, they have a tougher team. You have to play a good sound fundamental football to beat Kansas, but Georgia just right now just awesome, and it's just hard to be hard to beat Georgia. Anybody gonna be hard to beat Georgia though.
No doubt. That's right. You are correct. I am wrong. Rick is fact checking me now. They're playing Kentucky. That is correct. Kentucky is a tough team, very physical.
Georgia's going to win any way you look at it.
They still will have to play a really good team game to beat.
Could Georgia beat the USFL champions?
I don't think so.
USFL, not NFL, but USFL.
No, I don't think they can beat them. I don't think they can beat them.
I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles are made up of mostly of Georgia players, right? I mean, I don't know. That would be an interesting game. I think it would be a good game, Byron. I really do. USFL
you
ain't
think
the
so?
NFL.
I don't think so.
USFL ain't the NFL. They ain't the NFL.
I just don't think they can still beat them though.
Could the giant offensive line stop the Georgia pass rush?
Oh, stop now! Just throwing shots. Just throwing shots over here. I know the Jets' offensive line could not. You got Michigan playing Minnesota. Michigan number 2 in the country. Good, very good quarterback, physical team. They should have a problem with that. We got Oklahoma number 3 playing against Texas. Now this is against number 3.
Texas is number 3. Yeah, Texas is number 3.
Oklahoma's like number 11.
Yeah.
This could be the best game of the week, guys. I want to watch this game. I think this is going to be
and they're going to be in Dallas. I always put up for Texas. My youngest daughter went to the University of Texas, so I just love those Longhorns, and but I have a lot of friends that played at Oklahoma, so I have to sometimes just pretend I'm cheering for the Sooners, but I'm not really cheering for the Sooners.
All right, but listen, Texas. I think they're the best team in the nation right now. They got a heck of a defense this year. I think they could beat either Michigan or Georgia. Hopefully we get to find out. Maryland going up against Ohio State. Ohio State has been coming on lately. They got a good defense. The receivers are starting to catch some balls, but I still think they're not. I still don't think they're on that level. I don't think they could beat any of the top 3 teams right now. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Of course, Ohio State. That's where C.J. Stroud's from, and they produce at least one good quarterback in there, and recently anyway so far. What do you think, Byron? You think Ohio State is a paper tiger?
Yeah, I think one of the best coaches, and I look at the coaches when I look at college football, and I know that they do have one of the best coaches, and they have tradition, and so those two things gonna carry them over, and they're gonna be hard to beat. I mean, they're gonna always position themselves to be in the top 4 or 5 in the country, I think.
That's true. That's true. Virginia Tech, you don't hear much about, going up against number 5 Florida State. The Florida teams this year, Miami, Florida State, are all playing good football again. And I'll tell you, Miami at one time dominated college football back when Ray Lewis was there and players like that. And I think there's a resurgence down there, Byron. I heard Miami's not a great place to play as a player. Great for the fans, the swamps down there. I mean, this is, to me, Florida football, I think, is coming back, Byron.
Absolutely. I love the University of Florida, the Gators. I like them too. But Miami, for some reason, they getting excited. They recruiting some good athletes down there. So you can bet it's hard to beat Miami for sure. It's
good.
I think Florida State is deciding to watch too this year. So
number 5.
You got the whole state of Florida.
You see the difference between Byron and myself. If we were both in charge of recruiting, I would look for skilled players in the game. Byron would look for athletes. That's the difference between us. Guys who, had the fundamentals, good hands. He's looking at guys who could jump and run.
Absolutely.
Is that true? Is that true, Byron?
Yeah, it sounds pretty accurate right there.
All right. Arizona going up against number 9 USC. USC falls down. No defense at all. Caleb Williams might come out this year. He might not, depending on who's in line to pick him. But
right.
USC, they can score a bunch of points. Caleb Williams threw for six touchdowns last week, and they still had problems winning that game. They fall. USC, I don't think is a legitimate top 4 team. That's
absolutely. They had problem with Colorado, so I'm thinking that they're not there yet. There's something missing about that team. Either they defense need to get better, a special team need to improve. So it's something about USC for sure.
Yeah, Jack. If Caleb Williams can go to the Giants, he said that's one of the 5 teams he would go to. If you're the Giants, you pick him first round, first pick you have, if you get the opportunity.
Why are you taking your time, Byron? Absolutely you do. Unhesitatingly. Are you kidding me?
Well, you got to get a marquee player. You definitely have to go after a superstar, and right now he's quite an athlete. So I think it'll be good for the Giants. But I just would hate it for Daniel Jones. I really love Daniel Jones. I think he just hadn't been. I think he ain't had the right pieces around him, and the injuries and offensive line. It's a list of things, and he ain't been in the right offense. He ain't had the right coaches. So it's a list of things that Daniel Jones done had to.
Byron, I'm not denying anything you say here, but it's his. You can only stay so long with a quarterback. Okay, suppose he has a bad year, and then the next year he doesn't have an offensive line again, and Barkley's hurt again, and then we say, well, Daniel Jones isn't. It's not his fault. Eventually, Daniel Jones. I'd give him to the end of the year if he doesn't improve, and if he doesn't do, I'm going after Caleb Williams. I like Daniel Jones too. But listen, Caleb Williams is probably going to be the number 1 pick by any team. And if they have an opportunity to get him, they'd be foolish not to, Byron. That's all I'm saying.
And I'm just saying, I think sometimes you got to have the right pieces around these players in order to get to the next level.
There's no doubt about that.
It's just like Justin Fields. I think he's a great talent, but he still got some problem with some of the offense and the style of offense that he's playing in. You got to put these guys in a predicament situation to where they can be successful as well. You got to put the play calling, you got to put the right coaches, the offensive coordinators, and the offensive line has got to be solid.
Listen, I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying, Byron. I just think you have a time limit. Don't you think that's true, Jack? You got a time limit.
Absolutely. You said it perfectly, Mac. Kudos to you. You can only stick with a quarterback so long after a while. You can have all the excuses you want. You want to know something? The difference between the elite quarterbacks and guys like a Daniel Jones, and I don't mean this as a knock on Daniel Jones, even though it's going to look that way, is the elite quarterbacks find a way to get it done. No one's had a worse offensive line than Joe Burrow over the years. Yet the Bengals wouldn't even consider taking Williams in the draft if they somehow had the opportunity because they got Joe Burrow. Justin Herbert's had his problems with his offensive line. Josh Allen, they find a way to make things work one way or the other. And Daniel Jones, the last game was alarming. The way he stormed off to the sideline, he wasn't looking like a leader. The coaches had to calm him down. Something about the personality, the way he was losing his cool there. I mean, these young quarterbacks, and he's not so young anymore, but they go through a tough time. I mean, none of them seem to have good offensive lines, yet they somehow make it work. And this is Daniel Jones' fifth year.
I do want to say this. The style of offense that they play in now is totally different. You don't have your fullback. You don't have your conventional tight ends. So it's a different case scenario with these style of offenses now that these quarterbacks having to play with. So that's another thing too.
You never live it down. If Daniel Jones, if they stick with him and Williams turns out to be a superstar, they'll never live it down.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Absolutely.
And finishing off the top 10, Notre Dame will be playing Louisville. Another paper tiger, which Notre Dame is. I mean, they play good against the bad teams. When they come up and they play a good team, they have a problem, and we'll see what happens. Young coach over there, maybe they get better, maybe they don't. That's my team, but I'm going to be honest about it. I don't see them doing anything this year either. Some Pats news: Mac Jones gets benched for Zappe. Now, Bill Belichick says, "Well, we're gonna play Mac Jones this week, right? Even though they benched him." And Mac Jones did have a bad
Mac is starting Sunday for the Patriots.
I just said that. So, but even if he's starting, you pulled him for Zappe. I mean, now he's going to start looking over his shoulder again, I believe. Because if you pulled him once, you're going to pull him again if he has a.
It was so far down, Mac, in that game. It wasn't just a question that he couldn't get going.
Still, they still pulled him, Jack. I don't care what the reason is. Yeah. As a starter, wide receiver, quarter, whatever. If they pull you out of a game and put somebody else in because of the score or whatever, that's your starting quarterback. You stay with your starting quarterback. I don't think that was a good call. What do you think, Byron?
Yeah, I don't think that was a good call, but I think eventually you might want to go ahead and try Zappe. I think you only have so many games that you can continue to have this type of success, and if the offense ain't moving and scoring points, then you change.
Zappe has only one problem. He's not good, guys. He's not a good quarterback, Zappe. He's basically like putting a Band-Aid on the situation. Maybe if he played a lot for a couple of years, he would develop. I'm not saying he couldn't, but he's not the answer. Mac Jones threw across the field, intercepted, returned for a touchdown. It was terrible decision-making on a throw like that. You never throw on the opposite side of the field like that,
And he should know that, though, Jack. He should know that. You don't. He should know that. Why did he do that?
Why did he do that? That's one of the reasons Bill Belichick had his hands over his head, and he's another emotional guy. And then he fumbles another ball. It's picked up, returned for a touchdown. Mac Jones played the worst possible game a quarterback could play. But what would alarm me about Mac Jones, guys, he doesn't really have the arm strength. That's what's alarming me. I mean, his arm isn't going to win you games. He's got to be super smart in there, and he certainly wasn't last week.
You don't have to have a strong arm to go all the way. Joe Montana proved that. You just got to have the timing. You just got to know how to read the defense. There's a lot of things that go into becoming a good quarterback or a great quarterback besides arm strength. That I think the problem with Mac Jones right now, new offensive system, new offensive coordinator, hasn't caught on. They're saying, hey, after I figured they had a good game. He's
come on.
I'm telling you, Jack, right now, this is the first year with O'Brien as the offensive coordinator, and I don't think Zappy's got it yet. And I don't know if he'll get it this year or not. Maybe next year. I don't know.
Jones,
But then, then you get into question: how long do you hold on to your quarterback that you drafted? Again,
if I was offensive coordinator, I would have a challenge in practice, all week in practice. Whoever do the best in practice, that'll be my starting quarterback.
That's tough. That's tough, Byron. That's a tough way to pick your quarterback.
They play New Orleans this week. That's the type of game you would think New England is going to bounce back from. If they lose to New Orleans and they go 1-4, they're playing at home against the Saints.
You would think. Derek Carr played last week. Shouldn't have. They should have put in Jamison Winston, and he should play this week too until Carr is healthy again.
Carr is an average quarterback himself, and
I understand that. But if a hurt Carr, healthy Jameis Winston is better than a hurt Derek Carr. Just terrible decision by the
Okay.
Outside linebacker Matthew Judon is hurt. Their Christensen, their defensive back, is out.
Gonzalez, their corner.
They just picked up
Good player
from San Diego.
Jackson
from San Diego to fill his slot. So Patriots have a lot of problems right now. Even playing against New Orleans, they got a lot of problems. So we'll see what happens. No good news for the Giants. No good news for the Patriots. We'll see if the Jets can bring us some good news this week and go to Denver and win. I have second. I don't know if they're gonna or not. In fact, I don't think they're gonna beat Denver in Denver. But
I think they will. I think
must
they will.
Win for the Jets. Absolute must win. They go to 1-4. They're not going to make the playoffs this year.
You could say the same thing about you could say the same thing about Denver, Jack. They can't.
But Denver's not going to make the playoffs any way you look at it. They're not that good.
And you think the Jets are?
The Jets are, absolutely, absolutely. Right, the Jets are in a position.
I'm saving the tape. I'm saving the tape. Without Aaron Rodgers now, Jack thinks that the Jets will make the playoffs. I'm saving this tape, Jack.
Yeah.
All right. Folks, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for Byron. Thanks for sticking with us the whole show. It's been fun having you. Tomorrow, the Mac and Jack debate show. Sunday, the big football show. Monday, not Monday yet. Byron, Wednesday, J&B Talking Shop. Jack, Glove Fist with Frank Lotierzo on Thursday temporarily. Folks, thanks for joining us. Have a great Friday, and we'll